Namo Narayana, welcome back. We are starting today chapter 29, talks between Narada and King Pracinabarhi. This is a long chapter. I will be breaking up into at least 2, more likely 3 videos. Don't know where we're going to stop, so let's just dive in and find out what these talks are about. King Pracinabarhi replied, "My dear Lord, we could not appreciate completely the purport of your allegorical story of King Premanand. Actually, those who are perfect in spiritual knowledge can understand, but for us, who are overly attached to fruitive activities, to realize the purpose of your story is very great." The sage Narada Muni continued, "You must understand that Premanand, the living entity, transmigrates according to his own work into different types of bodies, which may be one-legged, two-legged, three-legged, four-legged, many-legged, or simply legless. Transmigrating into these various types of bodies, the living entity, as the so-called enjoyer, is known as Premanand. The person I have described as unknown is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master and eternal friend of the living entity. Since the living entities cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead by material names, activities, or qualities, he remains everlastingly unknown to the conditioned soul. When the living entity wants to enjoy the modes of material nature in their totality, he prefers, out of many bodily forms, to accept that body which has 9 gates, 2 hands, 2 legs. Thus he prefers to become a human being or a demigod. The word pramada, mentioned in this regard, refers to the material intelligence, or ignorance. It is to be understood as such. When one takes shelter of this kind of intelligence, he identifies himself with the material body. Influenced by the material consciousness of I and mine, he begins to enjoy and suffer through his senses. Thus the living entity is entrapped. The 5 working senses, and the 5 senses that acquire knowledge, are all male friends of Premanand, and the living entity is assisted by these senses in acquiring knowledge and engaging in activity. The engagements of the senses are known as girlfriends, and the servant, which was described as having 5 heads, is the air acting within the 5 circulatory processes. The 11th attendant, who is the commander of the others, is known as the mind. He is the leader of the senses, both in the acquisition of knowledge and in the performance of work. The Pansala kingdom is that atmosphere in which the 5 sense objects are enjoyed. Within that Pansala kingdom is the city of the body, which has 9 gates. The eyes, nostrils, and ears are pairs of gates situated in one place. The mouth, genitals, and rectum are also different gates. Being placed into a body having these 9 gates, the living entity acts externally in the material world and enjoys sense objects like form and taste. 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and a mouth, altogether 5, are situated on the front. The right ear is accepted as the southern gate, and the left ear is the northern gate. The 2 holes or gates situated in the west are known as the rectum and the genital organ. The 2 gates named Kadyota and Ivirmukhi, which have been spoken of, are the 2 eyes, side by side in one place. The town named Vibrachita should be understood as form. In this way, the 2 eyes are always engaged in seeing different kinds of forms. The 2 doors named Dalini and Nalini should be known as the 2 nostrils, and the city named Saraba represents aroma. The companion spoken of as Avadhuta is the sense of smell. The door called Mukya is the mouth, and Vipana is the faculty of speech. Rasajanya is the sense of taste. The city called Apana represents engagement in the tongue of speech, and Bahudana is the variety of foodstuffs. The right ear is called the gate of Ritu, and the left ear is called the gate of Devahu. The city spoken of as Dakshina Pansala represents the scriptures meant for directing Pavriti, the process of sense enjoyment and fruitive activities. The other city, named Uttara Pansala, represents the scriptures meant for decreasing fruitive activities and increasing knowledge. The living entity receives different kinds of knowledge by means of 2 ears, and some living entities are promoted to Pitraloka and some to Devaloka. All this is made possible by the 2 ears. The city called Gramaka, which is approached through the lower gate of Asuri, the genital organ, is meant for sex, which is very pleasing to common men who are simply fools and rascals. The faculty of procreation is called Dharmata, and the rectum is Nriti. When it is said that Paranjana goes to Vaishasa, it is meant that he goes to hell. He is accompanied by Lubdhaka, which is the working sense in the rectum. Formerly I have also spoken of 2 blind associates. These associates should be understood to be the hands and the legs. Being helped by the hands and the legs, the living entity performs all kinds of work and moves hither and thither. The word Antapura refers to the heart. The word Vishusina, meaning going everywhere, indicates the mind. Within the mind, the living entity enjoys the effects of the modes of material nature. These effects sometimes cause illusion, sometimes satisfaction, and sometimes jubilation. Formerly, it was explained that the queen is one's intelligence. While one is awake or asleep, that intelligence creates different situations. Being influenced by contaminated intelligence, the living entity envisions something and simply imitates the actions and reactions of his intelligence. What I referred to as the chariot was in actuality the body. The senses are the horses that pull that chariot. As time passes, year after year, these horses run without obstruction, but in fact they make no progress. Pious and impious activities are the 2 wheels of the chariot. The 3 modes of material nature are the chariot's flags. The 5 types of air constitute the living entity's bondage, and the mind is considered to be the rope. Intelligence is the chariot driver. The heart is the sitting place in the chariot, and the dualities of life, such as pleasure and pain, are the knotting place. The 7 elements are the coverings of the chariot, and the working senses are the 5 external processes. The 11 senses are the soldiers. Being engrossed in sense enjoyment, the living entity seated on the chariot hangers after fulfillment of his false desires and runs after sense enjoyment life after life. So I'm actually going to pause here. That is at verse 20. And if you think back to the chapter in which the city was described, I actually said in that video, what is this? What is this about? I think I criticized it for being irrelevant information, or it was trying to create a story with all this context, but it just seemed like, why are you talking about all these people we're never going to hear about again? They don't add to the story. They don't even create any situation. They don't create any mood or anything. I just didn't get it. I didn't see it. Did you see it? Did you? I don't know if you did or not. Maybe you did. Didn't want to embarrass me by putting something in the comments. Maybe you've read this before. I had no clue, and I wasn't seeing it that way. I just took this as plain as day, a story like we've seen already. But wow, I've just been proven wrong, completely wrong, in this chapter, which just came out of nowhere and revealed a very elaborate and detailed metaphor. Maybe the metaphor is a little bit too smart for its own good. Maybe if you're sitting there drawing things out, you might have seen something like, oh, this is a kind of interesting. There's 3 things here and whatever. But, so, wow, interesting. Yeah, I'm embarrassed. I didn't see it. So maybe you did. You can let me know down below if you did. We will pick up in the next video with verse 21. And I'm just not going to say anymore. I'm out. I lost it. So it's on you. And until next time, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.